I'm 43 now. Over the last several years before finding carnivore, my health just got worse and worse. Within the first couple of weeks, snoring stopped, the aches and pains started going away, my stomach issues started clearing up.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more, you can explore our homemade natural skincare products at purelytallow.com. Thank you so much for supporting my small business. Hey everybody, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and today my guest is Kerry Mann. You may know him from Instagram, from Homestead How. I always want to say it wrong. From Homestead How. He's also doing a documentary called Healing Humanity. And so we'll talk about that later, but I'd like to just start by saying thank you so much for stopping by. I know you guys are really busy getting ready with the documentary and doing interviews and things like that. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Serena.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a good conversation. I think that your story of healing and like how fast you healed and then how fast you went into like everybody needs to know about this. So let's start with your story first and then we'll move on to the documentary.
Sure. Yeah. So my story is I found carnivore about 320 days ago.
Mhm.
Um, Before that, I was very sick for a very long time. Most of my adult life, I had depression, anxiety. I was on every different SSRI. I was on medications for anxiety, medications for sleep. Nothing ever really seemed to work. And I'm 43 now. Over the last several years before finding carnivore, my health just got worse and worse. I'm trying to get all my medical records because I can't even remember all of the issues. I had my appendix burst. I had my gallbladder removed. I was diagnosed with a mini stroke about 5 years ago, a TIA mini stroke. And then they did subsequent tests after that and found that I have a low ejection fraction in my heart. And I was
Mhm.
diagnosed with congestive heart failure. So I just had a ton of issues. I had sleep apnea. I was snoring every night. I was using a CPAP machine for
Mhm.
many years. And kind of the thing that really put me over the edge was I was starting to get pain in my elbow and lower back. Now I realize it was just inflammation or arthritis. But I got it in my foot. And this was about 18 months before I found carnivore. And it was so bad in my foot. I was diagnosed with gout and they gave me medicine and it didn't work. They were doing injections in my foot. And it got to the point where I was at crutches. I was using crutches at one point. It would ebb and flow, but a lot of times I could barely walk around. If we'd go to the grocery store, I was using a mobility scooter and I could barely put any pressure down on the foot. I finally went into the third foot specialist and they said they could give me surgery and they'd have to cut the toe and like put a metal, like almost ball bearing in the joint. And thankfully I didn't do that. I found carnivore through Dante from Frigno Freedom.
Okay.
He did a video. He was doing the lion diet, and I had tried keto a long time ago, like in the beginning, like 15 years ago or something. I saw a documentary on Netflix about the ketogenic diet, and it was the first I ever heard about it, and I was intrigued, and I dipped my toes in a little bit. I tried it, and it was the only thing that ever gave me a little bit of relief. Like I noticed my anxiety and depression started going away slightly. Some of my arthritis started going away slightly. But I could never maintain it. And
Mhm.
I yo-yo dieted on keto for 15 years.
Mm.
And I've had a YouTube channel now for 8 years, and some people will watch my older videos and they'll say, "Oh, you weren't that big before." I always tell them just fast forward like 4 months later because my weight just went up and down and up
Mm.
and down so many times. So anyhow, when I saw Dante from Frigno Freedom, this was 320 days ago. I saw a video and he said he's going to be only eating meat. He's doing the lion diet, the stricter version of the carnivore diet.
Mhm.
I thought he was absolutely insane. I thought this was crazy. You can't sustain this. But then on the flip side, I'm like, with my knowledge of keto, I'm like, well, this is just extreme keto. I just can't see how you could maintain eating only meat for your whole life. Or what about fiber? What about scurvy? What about all these
Mhm.
other misconceptions there are out there? Anyhow, I noticed the video that Dante had was 2 years old. It was an older YouTube video he did. So I said to my wife, I was like, let's fast forward and see his most recent video. There's no
Mhm.
way this guy's still eating meat. I
Yeah.
fast forwarded 2 years later and Dante was just thriving. He lost all of his weight, big smile on his face, his mood, his depression, his anxiety, all that stuff improved. He improved IBS, stomach issues that he had as well. And that's what opened my eyes for carnivore. I still thought it was kind of crazy, and then I learned about Dr. Ken Berry and Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Tony Hampton. I started watching all their videos,
Mhm.
and finally I decided to start it. And Yeah, as you said, I had incredible results pretty quickly. I think maybe quicker than most people. And I don't know if that's because I did keto on and off before that, or just because of genetics, or because I'm a young man. It's different for everyone. So
Hmm.
I believe carnivore could be harder for women, or depending on your age, lots of different factors. Everyone's different. But uh, I started noticing results really quickly. I stopped snoring. This is the craziest part. I tell people this and they don't believe me, but the first day I did carnivore, the next morning my wife said, "You didn't snore last night for like the first night forever," which
Hmm.
was a contentious thing for us. Like we were ready to separate rooms because I snored so
Yeah.
badly. And then I researched and I saw Dr. Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan giving his lion diet carnivore testimony, and he stopped snoring the first week on carnivore. I've
Amazing.
since heard probably thousands of people saying that they stopped snoring on carnivore.
Hmm.
And that was just amazing and life changing to me. I was on a CPAP machine for years. I hated strapping that mask to my
Yeah.
face every single night.
Hmm.
Um, and I always thought, the sleep doctor told me, "Kerry, you're only going to stop snoring when you lose weight." He's like, "Listen, you're like 80 pounds overweight right now.
Hmm.
Lose that weight, you'll stop snoring." I thought it was all because I had a fat neck and I was
Right.
overweight. Part of that might have been true, but in my case, I stopped snoring before I lost any of the weight. It was just inflammation. And that's the
Yeah.
case I've learned from so many people. And inflammation on carnivore diet goes away so quickly for so many people. I noticed the pain in my elbows and my lower back. It was incredible. I didn't know how bad my lower back hurt. It was always in pain. I would always ask my wife, "Oh, could you rub my back?" for years and years. I just assumed like I was foolish in my younger years and I lifted something weird and it was damaged. And
Hmm.
it's always going to be like that. 300 days now, I haven't had any back pain whatsoever that I've had my whole adult life. So yeah, within the first couple of weeks, started noticing incredible results. Snoring stopped, the aches and pains started going away, my stomach issues started clearing up. I had IBS before and acid reflux. I was on um I was on pills for acid reflux, so Mazepal, for 10 years. I always
Hmm.
wondered, why do I have to keep taking these pills? I still have the acid reflux.
Hmm.
Uh, don't take those anymore either. But
Yep.
yeah, all these things started happening so quickly. And then on 30 days, I decided I'm going to do one video on my YouTube channel. The name of my channel is Homestead How. I typically do homesteading videos for years and years. So I never intended to do carnivore videos, but I did my 30-day update, and it really resonated with a lot of people. I started getting messages from other people who are like, "Yeah, I did the same thing as you and I'm having the same results." The thing that really touched me was people that were hopelessly depressed. My depression was so horrible for so many years. I was in such a dark place, tried everything. I listened to what all my doctors told me. I took all the pills they told me to take. They upped the dosage. They said it didn't work. They changed the medication. They said, "Try it for 3 months, see if it works. After 3 months, try another one." I did that cycle for years and years, strictly listening to what they were saying, and it never did anything for me. My depression was just getting worse and worse over the years. Um, so now I'm over 300 days into carnivore. I have no depression. I have no anxiety. And I always tell people, if it was just, I would have given anything in the world to just flatline, like
Hmm.
not be depressed anymore. It's the opposite of whatever hopeless
Yeah.
depression was. I'm happy. I'm thriving. I've got a big default smile on my face. I'm the opposite of whatever that deep depression was before. It's just incredible. The gout in my foot, that one took a little bit longer. I think that was around day 70 on carnivore. The gout that I had for 18 months in my foot that they wanted to do surgery on was completely gone after about day 70 on carnivore. The depression and anxiety went away, the snoring went away, IBS went away. It's just incredible. I had planned on only doing that one 30-day video, and then I ended up doing many more. Uh, the thing that really touched me was my oldest daughter, Lily. We have, my wife and I have triplets plus one. So we
Okay.
have we have like you, I have four kids, four
Oh.
girls.
Yep.
My oldest daughter, Lily, had open heart surgery at 13. And she had this horrible skin condition called HS. And it looks almost like acne. And it was all over her back, all over her chest. And it was very painful. She had this for 5 years. And my wife and I tried everything. We took her to 4 or 5 different dermatologists, really expensive, driving all over the state, experts. They gave her creams, they gave her pills. At the end, they're like, "We can give her this injection, but it's going to shut down her immune system." And we're like, "Oh my goodness, this is crazy." So when I think I was 10 days into carnivore, I told my daughter Lily, I'm like, "I'm not telling you what to do." She had just turned 18. I'm like, "But I really think now that I know what I'm knowing and I'm learning with this is probably just a reaction to the food you're eating." Even though those 5 dermatologists we went to, not one of them ever mentioned
Nope.
nutrition, not one of them. And so Lily tried it with me, and within 8 days, half of her back had cleared up. And she went on to do, by day 30 of her on carnivore diet, it was completely gone. This for 5 years she suffered from all this horrible, painful condition. After having open heart surgery, she also had some blood clots that almost took her life at age 15. She's had all sorts of health issues, but I remember at one time she's like, "This hurts so bad, I just want to die, and these doctors aren't doing anything for me. We keep trying this stuff for years and years, and nothing's working." So that is what really got me sort of passionate and fired up about carnivore diet. I started seeing all these other things. It's like it seems like it heals so many things.
Yeah. And most people, because their doctors don't mention, you should try this, you should try this, or, they don't I do think there's a place for modern medicine, but doctors don't know nutrition. And to go to a doctor that many times for a problem that she's having and not have one person mention that. I have a friend who I ran into at Walmart last summer. She and her husband and I started talking, and we were talking about food. And, of course, I glanced in their cart. It was, they had garbage in their cart, of course. And we talked about carnivore. I told them what I was doing. And she sent me a picture about 10 minutes later. We were already in the car on our way home, and she sent me a picture of their cart. They had put everything back, filled it with meat. And since then, she and her husband and their son have lost a ton of weight. They're healthier, they're happier. They can't believe the difference. She took metformin for more than 30 years. The
Mm.
doctor never told her, if you stopped eating sugar and processed foods, you wouldn't need to take this medication anymore. Nobody ever told her that. She knew the food she was eating weren't good for her, but she didn't relate that to the medication she was taking, if that makes sense. And so I think most people out there are like that. The doctor tells them to take this medicine and they say, okay, and they just take it.
Yeah. I feel in retrospect, I feel foolish. I always show this thing. I have like this container of 20 different pills I was taking over the years. Now it's like so clear, but we mentioned the documentary just
Yeah.
briefly. Someone asked me like if you could get one message across with the documentary. Of course, it's promoting the proper human diet, but
Hmm.
the biggest message, the simplified message is um, we need to return to what's natural for humans. We've gotten so far away from what's natural, we're getting sicker and sicker. But the other thing is, when you go to the doctor, I just want them to ask you, "What are you eating?"
Yeah.
People have said this before. You take your dog to the vet. The first thing they ask you is, "What is the dog eating?" And yeah, in all my instances, my daughters, everyone I know, they never ask you. Even
Never.
my mental health issues, everything, they never ask you what you're eating. It's just medication. And when you're just talking about medication and nutrition is the root cause of the problem, you're never going to fix it. It's like a temporary band-aid if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. So how strict are you now? Are you still just as strict? Have you added anything back in, vegetables or fruits or anything like that?
I am 100% strict. And I try
Mhm.
to be careful with that because people give me a hard time, like, "Oh, Mr. Perfect over there."
Yeah.
But I always preface this with saying I did the ketogenic diet, like I mentioned earlier, for 15 years or so. And I used to cheat all the time and I
Yeah.
would experiment and I would get dirty keto and the keto products. And I yo-yoed so much. And one of the most devastating things I think for myself and maybe for someone else is if you go through that whole process and you lose an incredible amount of weight, which I did on keto. I have this one picture of my wife and I when we lost a whole bunch of weight. I remember that day we were on vacation. I'm like, I am never going to gain this weight back. No matter what I do, I'm never
Mhm.
going to gain it back. And I think it was like 4 months later, I gained all the weight back and then more than that.
Mhm.
And for me, it was I've realized some people, Dr. Barry says this, some people have like a carb dial, some people have
Mhm.
a carb switch. They can have a
Mhm.
little bit of carbs, they could have some berries, they could have a little bit of fruit or artificial sweeteners.
Mhm.
I just can't. I've learned through experimenting on myself through keto that I have a carb switch. If I have a
Yep.
little bit of even just some raspberries or some low glycemic
Mhm.
vegetables or fruit or whatever, I'll start binging. I can't control myself. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you're an
I'm very
abstainer.
strict.
You're an
Yes.
abstainer then, right? I mean, and that's so important. I think people don't understand what that means. So, for instance, I've never eaten one Oreo cookie. I don't think I've ever eaten one cupcake. Like I can't have just one. So I can't have just one handful. I can't have just one of the cookies and so I have to abstain and not have any. Was it like that for you before, like with all your yo-yo dieting and everything? Did you find that it was oh, I'll have just one that led you down that path before?
100%. Yeah, I'd go in with good intentions. I'm gonna just have one, and then I couldn't have one Oreo. I'd have the whole package. And then I would say, well, it's Friday, so we'll go through the weekend and we're just
Yep.
gonna binge. And then the end of the weekend would come and I'd be like, Oh, it's the first of the month in a week. Well, let's just go one more week, and then you would just keep doing it over and over and over again. The
Yes.
beauty of this though is having the switch or being an abstainer is I think it makes carnivore a little bit easier. I see some people struggling on carnivore that they say they have the dial and maybe they just haven't figured it out or not yet.
Mhm.
Maybe they really do. I don't know, but where they struggle or they still have the cravings or
Mhm.
they'll still have like a little bit of fruit here or maybe a diet soda or something with some artificial sweeteners. And they end up struggling more. So for me, it's like I'm either all in or I'm not.
Yeah.
And because I'm all in on carnivore, I only eat beef, butter, bacon, eggs. I'll have a little bit of seafood, chicken. I did a stretch of 60 days where I just did lion diet. I just had beef, salt, and water. I felt incredible doing that.
Mm.
But yeah, it's so easy for me. I don't have any cravings whatsoever doing it that way. So it's like I'm either all in or I'm not in at all kind of thing.
Yeah, and I often wonder if people can change that. And so I've been experimenting just a little bit. I'll eat an artichoke every now and then, just kind of as a treat with my kids. We love to eat fresh artichokes, steamed. And then just recently, I actually posted a video today of a pork brownie. So it's like the pork panko as the flour, and then it's got some monk fruit sweetener in it. And I've done okay with that. I've been able to have, just kind of one. But if that got out of control for me, I would have to pull it back and just not have any. So I've often wondered, can you go from being an abstainer to a moderator? And I'm still not sure. I think, I'm experimenting on myself just a little bit, like just to see. And so far, so good. But I wouldn't take it so far as to have like some real sugar or something like that. I think it's sugar more than anything for me that would set me off. Do you think that there would be a time where you might be able to add some things in as long as it wasn't like a really carby stuff? Or do you think maybe you could have one at some point and not get all messed up from it?
Yeah, for me, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I've early on I did. I said I'm going to do this for 30 days and then I'm going to reintroduce things,
Mhm.
but I just feel so incredible. And when I experimented before on keto, it was my depression was so bad. I can't describe the depths of
Mm.
it. So for me it's like I look at it like I my entire life I was a horrible alcoholic and I quit alcohol and
Mhm.
going back to some of those things is like, oh, I'll just have a little beer and see if
Yeah.
it feels better.
Mhm.
I because it was that bad for me, but I'm not judging other people, like, other people
Right.
can definitely do that, and maybe it's just fine for them. Um, yeah, that's just me from what I've done before with keto and things like that, and I feel so good doing this that I don't have a need to. Like, I've thought before, like, "Oh, what if I had some cauliflower or something like that?" But I'm like, "Why would I? I'm not missing
Mhm.
any nutrition, and I feel incredible every day." So, maybe that will change at some point, but I don't think it will, so I'm just gonna stick to beef, butter, bacon, eggs.
Yeah. Did you have a hard time at the beginning? Did when you gave up all of those things? I know we talked about how you felt, but did you have a hard time mentally thinking about how you can't have those foods? Did that bother you in the beginning?
A little bit, but I think I had it easier than others because I did keto before.
Mhm.
But yeah, like the first week in particular, I had some crazy cravings for sure, and was thinking there's no way this is going to be sustainable because in that moment, I'm like, if it's going to be like this forever, I can't maintain it. But once I got into that deep state of ketosis and got over the sugar and carb cravings from stuff I was having before, then it got a lot easier, and it's been easy sailing since. That's why I find it so frustrating, when I see loved ones or family and friends that are suffering and they have these issues, and they look at me and they're like, I could never do what you're doing. I get it because I thought that in the beginning, but now
Mhm.
that I'm doing this, it's the easiest thing in the world for me. It's so easy. I don't even have to think about it. That's why it just seems so natural. Even when I was doing keto, like I said, I had some success with keto, but it was still unnatural. And I had a little app and I'm like calculating carbs and counting out
Yeah.
things and running these,
Mhm.
and it always seemed unnatural. Carnivore just seems so natural. I don't even have to think about it. That's why it's so frustrating when people are like, I could never do what you're doing. I'm like, well, literally, it's the easiest thing I've ever done. I sometimes have to
Right.
remind myself to eat something.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I forget to eat sometimes, which when I used to hear people say that, people would say, "Oh, I forgot to eat breakfast." I'm like, "Oh, I forgot to eat breakfast." Like I had never forgotten to eat before. Like I would actually walk away like, "Whatever, you're such a liar. How do you forget to eat breakfast?" But that does happen because we're so full even from the night before, depending on what we ate. It really does put food kind of on the back burner for things, whereas normally our lives revolve around food and revolve around the next meal and revolve around the next party. And so you're always counting down looking for that next meal. But I really do find that there are a lot of times that like 8 o'clock in the evening rolls around and I'm sitting around with my family and I'm like, I never fed everybody dinner. Like I just completely forgot. And the rest of my family is not carnivores. And so they didn't forget. They just found a snack, like they didn't forget. But I forget all the time. So
Right.
it's really interesting. Now, what about your friends and family? When you said, I'm going to just eat meat, what did they say? Did you have like a lot of backlash from that?
Yeah, more so from my extended family. My immediate family, it saw me do every diet, so they're like, "Well, here's just another one." Although this one's a lot crazier.
Yeah.
Um, my wife was kind of excited because she was watching a lot of the YouTube videos with me, and she saw Dante's transformation and some other people that have overcome mental health issues. So overall, it was pretty good. But yeah, my extended family, a lot of them still think I'm crazy and I'm going to have a heart attack. And meanwhile, I've never been healthier in my entire life, by all
Mhm.
accounts. I feel like I could get up and run a marathon before I could barely stand up. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's interesting going to family events and talking to extended family, but I don't know. They're slowly warming up to it, maybe.
Yeah, you'd like to think that because everywhere we go, people are so sick. Everywhere we go, people are in the hospital and in and out of doctor's offices. And it just makes me sad. I'm only going to talk about it so much to the people that are actually in my life because I don't want to push them away. I don't want to alienate myself and I don't want to make people feel like I'm judging them because I'm not. But knowing what I know, it's really hard to watch people be sick and know that like, it's worth a try, right? Regardless of what you're going through, it's worth a try. If you've tried everything else and you're taking all these medications and you're still sick, and I actually had somebody say to me one time, I'm doing everything my doctor is telling me to do, and I'm already so unhealthy. Why would I try something you read about on the internet? I was like, well, that's the thing. You're already doing everything your doctor is telling you to do,
Right.
and you're so sick. It's not working. You're following the DASH diet. You're inflamed, like your face is twice the size it used to be. I mean, there is something wrong. How hard would it be to try this for 30 days? And if it didn't work, by all means, go back to the DASH diet.
Mhm.
But what if it did?
Yeah.
That's what I always say to people is like, but what if that could be fixed by giving up processed foods, seed oils, and sugar? What if?
Yeah. Sadly, and I wanna say, I think most doctors mean well and they're trying to do well, but
Mhm.
sadly, if I would have done the opposite of what most of my doctors told me, I would have been in a lot better place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, and it's so sad for me that most people, they're never gonna know what it feels like to just feel like a proper human. That's kind of like with the documentary Healing Humanity. It has many different names, but that's one of the biggest things that's so sad for me that I realized on Carnivore that I knew before doing Carnivore that I had depression, anxiety, and I had horrible brain fog. I was always stuttering and stammering. I could never find my words. I could never do something like this. But I didn't know the extent of it. Like they say, when you're in the fog, you can't see the fog, and then once you get out
Mhm.
of it, it's so eye opening. And the fact that so many individuals, they're going to go through their whole lives never knowing what that feels like. It's so sad. I've been kind of going down this rabbit hole more as we're filming the documentary, just realizing I believe most people on the standard American diet, I'm just judging myself before carnivore. It's almost like I was impaired. It's almost like I was
Mhm.
drunk before. I wasn't giving my brain the proper fuel. I've since learned more about this. I did a big video last night with Dr. Georgia Ede, Harvard trained psychiatrist. She just launched a book called Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. Some incredible work she's doing there. But one of her points is the brain requires an incredible amount of energy to function. And when you're putting sugar and garbage and seed oils and the improper fuel in your body, the brain just can't keep up. It's no wonder
Mhm.
we have brain fog and we're impaired. And so just the fact that most of humanity, when you have that brain fog, that impairment, it's almost like you're sick. I feel like I was sick before carnivore. So when people would tell me, oh, just go exercise, then you'll feel
Yeah.
better. That always drove me nuts. No, I'm sick. I can't exercise. And when the
Mhm.
majority of humanity is sick like that, they're not going to go out and go after their goals and dreams. They're not going to make real human connections with people.
Mhm.
They're going to do the bare minimum. They're going to go with the social norms. They're going to just go along with the flow of things, and they're just going to coast through life. And that's just so sad. It's no way to live. So I always tell people you deserve to live at least one day feeling like I get to feel every day. It's
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing, and to see how fast those results were for you, to hear that, because most people on any kind of a diet, it takes a long time to get, these kinds of results, especially like the mental clarity if you're suffering from mental health issues or if you have autoimmune issues, those things, those results come so quickly on the carnivore diet after years of not getting help from doctors or not getting good enough help from doctors. It's just amazing how quickly you can feel better. So let's talk about the documentary. You mentioned healing humanity. So let's talk about that. What made you decide to take on a project like that?
I have no idea. Carnivore, I don't know. I never would have done something like this before. I guess the big thing was I learned about the ketogenic diet through a documentary. And I've watched all of these YouTube videos about carnivore, but I've never seen a documentary about it. And
Mhm,
while there's a lot of really good YouTubers getting the message out on YouTube, I believe that's just a small fraction of the people we could reach.
mhm,
Um, there's millions and millions of people that are watching these streaming services like Netflix and Amazon and HBO that we're not reaching. I didn't see anyone doing a documentary like that. The other thing was I believe it's these documented stories that really matter. No matter how much, Serena, we want to help other people and say, "Hey, just do this carnivore diet." I don't think you can change anybody, but if you put your example out there in the world, or you put other people's examples out there in the world, you can inspire other people, and they could say, "Oh,
mhm,
what Serena's doing looks like it's worked. Maybe I'll make the decision myself to then try it." So that was the idea behind the documentary, is to follow around real people over the course of a year, eating the proper human diet across a whole bunch of different health issues. Of course, obesity is one, but someone with type 2 diabetes, someone with autoimmune disorders, someone that's doing it for mental health reasons, and just see what happens over the course of a year. And so, yeah, we started filming. Wow, it's been quite a while now. We filmed Bill Knott out in Alaska. He was
mhm.
700 pounds, stuck in his house for 4 years. He's down almost 200 pounds right now. His inflammation went away. And like this is the coolest thing. He called me like 2 weeks in. He's like, Kerry, I don't know what's happening. I had this pain in my knees and my back. It's all gone. Like, how can this happen so quick? I was like, inflammation, Bill. The
Mhm.
inflammation goes away so quick. He had horrible, crippling depression, stuck in his house for 4 years. It's the complete opposite of that right now. He's got his mood back and everything. And so we're filming him for a year. My daughter Emma and I flew out there. My daughter Emma's a carnivore with me. We
Mhm.
flew out there, and he was the first person to film. And when he's ready to walk out of his house into the beautiful Alaskan wilderness for the first time in years, we're going to film that. And it's going to hopefully be the end of the documentary. We also filmed Maggie, a rancher from Canada. She's
Mhm.
82. She's been
Mhm.
eating proper human diet for 60 years. She
Amazing.
she put me to shame. Just it was crazy. It was unbelievable. I can't wait to share that footage. And then we filmed my friend Jeff DeProsperous. He's on a journey to be cancer free. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he's been doing carnivore for over a year, and
Mhm.
he is living life to the fullest. He is thriving. This was the biggest realization, Serena, I've had, is doing this documentary and learning more from people. It's all connected. Like, some
Mhm.
people get into carnivore because they want to lose weight. I got into it because I wanted depression, mental health, but it fixed my IBS. It fixed my weight. It reduced my odds of type 2 diabetes. I don't think I'm ever going to get Alzheimer's. And now with Jeff in this documentary, we've interviewed Professor Seafried, cancer researcher from Boston University, and he's been talking about this stuff for 30 years. Cancer as a metabolic disease with metabolic
Mhm.
treatments. Um, it's crazy. Like, Jeff, he's doing chemo for his cancer, but he has to take almost half the amount of chemo medicine that he would, because his body's in ketosis. Professor Seafried talks about this, and how much more bearable chemotherapy treatment is, and how cancer basically thrives on glucose and sugar, and when you eliminate it,
Mhm.
it's everything's so much better. So it's really it's been just eye-opening, the amount of things I've seen heal or improve on carnivore, and that's what we're trying to capture with the healing humanity, try to share the examples of real people.
That's amazing. So, how many more people? Do you have lots of people already that you're following? How many do you plan on having?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're still looking. So if people are interested, we're still accepting people to register for it. We filmed 4 so far, and we filmed Dr. Tony Hampton. In a week, we're going to film Dr. Barry. We have 10 experts, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Philip Ovadia, Dr. Tony Hampton, Dr. Barry, and a couple other Dr. Professor Seafried. And we're looking at about 20 right now individuals. It's tricky because we're trying to find a good balance. We're almost at the point now where we're trying to have like 3 main stories and then some smaller stories, just otherwise this documentary is going to be 8 hours long. And then our goal is to give it justice, to maybe do a subsequent series afterwards where we can dedicate an entire episode to cancer, an entire episode to type 2 diabetes, and so on. So we're hoping to touch on each of those in the main documentary and then expand on it in a future series.
Well, I think that's wonderful. I think you're doing such a great job with that. If you had, let's say, 3 or 4 book recommendations for people, what would they be?
Oh, number one would be the one I talked about yesterday, it's from Dr. Georgia Ede. It's called Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind.
Hmm.
I'm not exaggerating. I don't get anything for promoting this. I have no incentive to promote it other than I really truly believe that book would have changed my life if I found it in my deepest, darkest
Hmm.
depression. There's so many hopeless people out there in the world. When you talk about mental health issues, it's just grim out there. It's like
Yeah.
something like Dr. Ede was saying, 1 billion people, and that doesn't count all the people that aren't reporting their
Right.
anxiety and mental health issues. But that book is absolutely incredible. Another one I'd recommend is this one I always have on my side here. This is called Sugar Blues by William Duffy.
Hmm.
Just real quick, this one says, consumed at the rate of over 150 pounds per year per person, it's as addictive as nicotine or heroin and is poisonous, responsible for numerous health issues such as depression, fatigue, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and more. It's sugar. The crazy thing with this book is this was written in the 1970s.
Yeah,
Just mind blowing,
they've known for a long time that
right?
sugar was bad and sugar was causing trouble, and, the problem is the sugar industry, the processed food industry, they have their hands in everything. It's almost impossible to get away from all of that.
Right. Yeah. And it's everywhere. And we're getting kids hooked on sugar from a young age. There's cartoon characters all over cereal
Yep.
boxes and
Mhm.
make them lifelong sugar consumers. So,
Yeah, not to mention the stamp that says heart healthy, that most people don't know that the companies pay to have that stamp put there. There are no regulations that those foods have to meet. There are no standards to get that. They can pay for that.
right. Oh, sorry, your question. So, 4 books.
That's
So,
a
those would be the two. The third one, Dr. Baker's Carnivore Diet book,
Mhm.
I'd recommend. It's a great book. He literally coined the term carnivore.
Mhm.
Um, Dr. Baker did, and even just the intro, he has like a little autobiography from his life
Mhm.
before. It's just incredible. I was intrigued by just that part alone. So, and then for a fourth one, I would say I just want to double check that. Yeah, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease from
Mhm.
Professor Thomas Seyfried.
Yeah.
Amazing. He's been talking about this stuff for so long. He's so passionate about it. And sadly, most people aren't listening. When my
Mhm.
buddy Jeff was diagnosed with cancer, he goes to the chemo treatment and they're giving him sugar and cookies, and it's
Yep.
completely opposite of what we should be doing. It's an absolute shame. People should know about metabolic therapy if they're diagnosed with cancer. I'm not saying that they have to do this or they have to do that. They should just have it in their toolbox as an option. And sadly, almost everyone diagnosed with cancer now, they don't even know that this is an option.
Yeah, it's maddening to me when you see pictures that people will show of the foods they serve at the cancer center, that they have vending machines with soda and snacks and, all the things, potato chips, Nutty Buddies, all of those kinds of things in the vending machines in cancer centers. It blows me away. I can't understand why it's so hard. You can't understand why it's so hard to get away from that and from for a doctor to say, don't eat those things. Why won't they just tell people not to eat those things? I just don't understand it.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely maddening. I asked Professor Seifert, I'm like, how are we going to change this? And he said the only way it's going to change is if the individuals, it's got to be a grassroots effort. So
Mhm.
I'm working with my friend Jeff and we're trying to do that. We put together this free cancer action plan on our website where people can go and it shows Jeff's regimen and how he uses metabolic therapies, fasting, ketogenic diet, some different things he's doing in his regimen to deal with his cancer. So we're trying to get the word out that way. But yeah, it's so sad right now.
Okay, so how can people find you?
Yeah, so our website is healinghumanity.movie. And yeah, everything's on there, including the cancer action plan I just mentioned. Otherwise on YouTube, I got to change my YouTube channel name. I've been a homesteader for years, but my YouTube channel is Homestead How. I still have homesteading videos on there. I do them every now and then, but it's mostly just the documentary and carnivore diet, proper human diet stuff now.
Awesome.
So
Very good. Well, Carrie, this was really, really good. I can't wait to see your documentary. And don't forget, you guys, he's still looking for some people. So make sure you contact him. People can contact you from the website.
absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. This was really great.
Thank you, Serena. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Carnivore Revolution.